Chapter 3. Norm Barrett woke up at 10:15 in the morning to the sound of kids fighting outside the bedroom window and country music from the radio in the kitchen. He went to the back door in his saggy shorts and undershirt, threw it open and yelled, "You kids shut your heads!" A moment's pause. Luke and Bobby had looked around from the old and rusty jump trick they had been arguing over. As always when he saw his kids, Norm felt dragged two ways at once. His heart ached to see them wearing hand-me-downs and Salvation Army give-outs like the ones you saw the black children in East Arnett wearing, and at the same time a horrible shaking eager would sweep through him, making him want to stride out there and beat the living shit out of them. "Yes, Daddy," Luke said in a subdued way. He was 9. "Yes, Daddy," Bobby echoed. He was 7, going on 8. Norm stood for a moment, glaring at them, and slammed the door shut. He stood for a moment, looking indecisively at the pile of clothes he had worn yesterday. They were lying at the foot of the sagging double bed where he had dropped them. "That slutty bitch," he thought. "She didn't even hang up my duds." "Lila!" he bawled. There was no answer. He considered ripping the door open again and asking Luke where the fuck she had gone. It wasn't a Native Commodities Day until next week, and if she was down at the employment office in Braintree again, she was an even bigger fool than he thought. He didn't bother to ask the kids. He felt tired, and he had a queasy, thumping headache. Felt like a hangover, but he only had 3 beers down at Hap's the night before. That accident had been a hell of a thing, the woman and the baby girl dead in the car, the man, Charles D. Campion, dying on the way to the hospital. By the time Hap had gotten back, the state patrol came and went, and the wrecker, and the Braintree undertaker's hack. Vic Palfrey had given the loss statement for all 5 of them. The undertaker, also the county coroner, refused to speculate on what might have hit them. "But it ain't cholera, and don't you go scaring people saying it is. There will be an autopsy, and you can read about it in the paper." Miserable little pissant, Norm thought, slowly dressing himself in yesterday's clothes. His headache was turning into a real blinder. These kids had better be quiet, or they were going to have a pair of broken arms to mouth off about. Why the hell couldn't they have school the whole year round? He considered tucking his shirt into his pants, decided the president probably wouldn't be stopping by that day, and shuffled out into the kitchen in his sock feet. The bright sunlight coming in the east windows made him squint. The cracked Felco over the radio sang, "But baby, you can tell me if anyone can. Baby, can you dig your man? He's a righteous man. Tell me, baby, can you dig your man?" Things had come to a pretty pass when they had to play sister rock and roll music like that on the local country music station. Norm turned it off before it could split his head. There was a note by the radio, and he picked it up, narrowing his eyes to read it. "Dear Norm, Sally Hodges says she needs somebody to sit the kids this morning and says she'll give me $1. I'll be back for lunch. There's sausage if you want. I love you, honey. Lila." Norm put the note back and just stood there for a moment, thinking it over and trying to get the sense of it in his mind. It was goddamn hard to think past the headache. Babysitting. $1 for Ralph Hodges' wife. 3 elements slowly came together in his mind. Lila going out to sit Sally Hodges' 3 kids during a lousy dollar and stuck him with Luke and Bobby. By God, it was hard times when a man had to sit home and wipe his kids' noses so his wife could go out and scratch out a lousy buck that wouldn't even buy them a gallon of gas. That was hard fucking times. Dull anger came to him, making his headache even worse. He shuffled slowly to the Frigidaire, bought when he had been making good overtime, and opened it. Most of the shelves were empty except for leftovers Lila had put up in refrigerator dishes. He hated those little plastic Tupperware dishes. Old beans, old corn, leftover dab of chili, nothing a man liked to eat. Nothing here but little Tupperware dishes and little 3 tiny old sausages done up in handy wrap. He bent, looking at them, the familiar helpless anger now compounded by the dull throb in his head. The sausages looked like somebody had cut the cocks off in 3 of those pygmies they had down in Africa, or South America, or wherever the fuck it was they had them. Didn't feel like eating anyway. He felt damn sick when he got right down to it. He went over to the stove, scratched a match on the piece of sandpaper nailed down to the wall beside it, lit the front gas ring, and put on the coffee. Then he sat down and waited dully for it to boil. Just before he did, he had to scramble his snot right out of his back pocket to catch a big wet sneeze. Coming down with a cold, he thought. Isn't that something nice on top of everything else? But It never occurred to him to think of the phlegm that had been running out of that fellow campion's pump the night before. Hap was in the garage bay putting a new tailpipe on Tony Lemonster's Scout, and Vic Palfrey was rocking back on a folding camp chair watching him and drinking a Dr. Pepper when the bell dinged out front. Vic squinted. "It's State Patrol," he said. "Looks like your cousin there, Joe Bob." "Okay." Hap came out from underneath the Scout, wiping his hands on a ball of waste. On his way to the office, he sneezed heavily. He hated summer colds. They were the worst. Joe Bob Brentwood, who was almost 6.5 feet tall, was standing by the back of his cruiser filling up. Beyond him, the 3 pups Campion had driven over the night before were neatly lined up like dead soldiers. "Hey, Joe Bob!" Hap said, coming out. "Hap, you some bitch!" Joe Bob said, putting the pump handle on automatic and stepping over the hose. "You lucky this place was standing this morning." "Shit, Stu Redmond saw the guy coming and switch off the pumps. There was a load of sparks, though." "Still damn lucky. Hap, I come over for something besides a fill-up." "Yeah?" Joe Bob's eyes went to Vic, who was standing at the station door. "Was that old geezer here last night?" "Who, Vic?" "Yeah, he comes over most every night. Can he keep his mouth shut?" "Sure, I reckon he's a good enough old boy." The automatic feed kicked off. Hap squeezed out another 20 cents worth and put the nozzle back on the pump and switched it off. He walked back to Joe Bob. "So, what's the story?" "Well, let's go inside. I guess the old geezer ought to hear too. If you get a chance, you can find the rest of them that were here." They walked across the tarmac and into the office. "Good morning to you, officer," Vic said. Joe Bob nodded. "Coffee, Joe Bob?" Hap asked. "I guess not." He looked at them heavily. "Thing is, I don't know how my superiors would like me being here at all. I don't think they would, so when those guys come here, you don't let them know I tipped you, right?" "What guys, officer?" Vic asked. "Health department," Joe Bob said. Vic said, "Oh, Jesus, it was cholera. I knowed it was." Hap looked from one to the other. "Joe Bob?" "Oh, no, nothing," Joe Bob said, sitting in one of the plastic Wilco chairs. His bowling knees nearly came up to his neck. He took a pack of Chesterfields from his blouse pocket and laughed. "Finnegan there in the corner. That was a smart ass," Hap said fiercely. "You should have seen him strutting around in here, Joe Bob, just like a P-turkey that got his first hard on Cheshire people and all that. He's a big turd in the little bowl, all right." Joe Bob agreed. "Well, he got Dr. James Campion, and the 2 of them called in another doctor that I don't know. Then they got on the phone to Houston, and at 3 a.m. they couldn't take our back. Who did? Pathologists, 3 of them. They weren't there with the bodies until about 8 o'clock. Cutting on them is my guess, although I don't know for sure. And they got on the phone to the police center in Atlanta. Those guys are going to be here this afternoon, but in the meantime, the state health department was to send some fellas out here and see all the guys that were in the station last night and the guys that drove the rescue to Braintree. I don't know, but it sounds like to me like they want you quarantined." "Moses and the bulrushes," Hap said, frightened. The APC is federal," Vic said. "Would they send out a plane load of feds just for cholera?" "Search me," Joe Bob said, "but I thought you guys had a right to know. From all I heard, you tried to lend a hand." "It's appreciated," Joe Bob had said slowly. "What did this James and this other doctor say?" "Not much, but they looked scared. I never seen doctors look scared like that. I didn't much care for it." A heavy silence fell. Joe went to the drink machine and got a bottle of Fresca. The faint hissing sound of the carbonation was audible as he popped the cap. As Joe Bob said, "Hat down again," Hap took a Kleenex from the box next to the cash register, wiped his runny nose, and folded it into the pocket of his greasy overalls. "What have you found out about Charles?" Vic said. "Anything? We're still checking," Joe Bob said with a trace of importance. "His ID says he was from San Diego, but a lot of the stuff in his wallet was 2 to 3 years out of date. His driver's license was expired. He had a Bank of America that was issued in '86, and that was expired too. He had 9 records that were checking with him. The captain has lunch at Campion and lived in San Diego for maybe 4 years. AWOL? Vic asked. He produced a big red bandana hawk and spat into it. "Don't know yet, but his army card says he was there until 1997. He was at the civvies, and he was with his family. He was a fuck of a long way from California. Listen to my mouth run." "Well, I'll get in touch with the others and tell them what you said anyway," Hap said. "Much obliged." Joe Bob stood up. "Sure, just keep my name out of it. I sure wouldn't want to lose my job." "Your buddies don't need to know who tipped you, do they?" "No," Hap said, and Vic echoed it. As Joe Bob went to the door, Hap said a little Jetically, that's why I'm even for gas, Joe Bob. I hate to charge you, but with things the way they are. That's okay. Joe Bob handed him a credit card. See, it's paid, and I got my credit slip to show why I was here. While I was filling out the slip, he sneezed twice. You want to watch that? Joe Bob said. Nothing any worse than the summer cold. Don't I know it? Suddenly from behind them, Vic said, Maybe it's not a cold. They turned to him. Vic looked frightened. I woke up this morning hagging away like 60, Vic said. Had a mean headache too. I took some aspirin and it's gone back some, but I'm still full of mucus. Maybe we're coming down with it, what the Campion had, what he died of. Hap looked at him for a long time, and as he was about to put forward all his reasons why it couldn't be, he sneezed again. Joe Hap looked at them both gravely for a moment and then said, it might not be such a bad idea to close the station, Hap, just for today. Hap looked at him scared and tried to remember what all his reasons had been. He couldn't think of a one. All he could remember was that he also awoke with a headache and a runny nose. Well, everyone had caught a cold every once in a while. But before that guy Campion had shown up, he'd been fine. Just fine. The three Hodges kids were 4, 6, and 18 months. The two youngest were taking naps and the oldest was back out digging a hole. Library was lying and watching the Young and the Restless. She hoped Sally wouldn't return until it was over. Ralph Hodges had bought a big color TV when times had been better internet, and Lila loved to watch the afternoon stories in color. Everything was so much prettier. She drew on a cigarette and then let the smoke out in spasms as a racking cough seized her. She went into the kitchen and spat the mouthful of crap she had brought up down the drain. She had gotten up with the cough, and all day it had felt like someone was tickling the back of her throat with a feather. She went back to the living room after taking a peek out the pantry window to make sure Bert was okay. The commercial was on now, 2 dancing balls of toilet cleaner. Lila let her eyes drift around the room and wished her own house looked this nice. Sally's hobby was doing paint-by-the-numbers pictures of Christ, and they were all over the living room in nice frames. She especially liked the big one of the Last Supper mounted in the back of the TV. It had come in 60 different oil colors, Sally had told her. It took almost 3 minutes to finish. It was a real work of art. Just as her story came back on, baby Cheryl started to cry, a whooping, ugly yell broken by bursts of coughing. Lila put out a cigarette and hurried into the bedroom. Eva, the 4-year-old, was still fast asleep, but Cheryl was lying on her back in her crib, and her face was glowing an alarming purple color. Her cries began to sound strangled. Lila, who was not afraid of the croup after seeing her all through bouts with it, picked her up by the heels and swatted her firmly on the back. She had no idea if Dr. Spock recommended the sort of treatment or not, because she had never read him. It worked nicely on baby Cheryl, however. She emitted a froggy croak and suddenly spat an amazing wad of yellow foam out into the floor. Better? Lila asked. Yes, said baby Cheryl. She was almost asleep again. Lila wiped up the mess with a Kleenex. She couldn't remember ever having seen a baby cough up so much phlegm all at once. She sat down in front of the Young and Restless again, frowning. She lit another cigarette, sneezed over the first puff, and then began to cough herself.